Hey guys, Baird here with Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. So I know that I've been away for a little while and I did do a video as to why I've been away. I'll leave that in the top right hand corner of this video. And my first video back, I of course had to get into these SVS PB17 boxes. They sent me two of these subwoofers. It's the cream of the crop, it's the Big Bertha, it's the Big Mamba, it's the biggest subwoofer that they make with the most amount of output. So I'm really excited to get these things hooked up, but first we got to get into the boxes. One thing that I really like about SVS is their packaging. I mentioned this on the SVS Evolution Pinnacle speaker unboxing as well. They just really put a lot of thought into their packaging, and on the box here it says open here, so they tell you exactly which side that you should open it from, and then I'm guessing there will be some instructions on the other side that show us how to unbox it, so let's find out. Okay, so just as I suspected, as soon as you get that first flap undone, you do have the instructions here. Okay, so what the instruction says is that you should position the carton near the final location in your room. Lower the outer carton flaps until they rest on the ground. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have the ability to do that. I'm going to unbox it here, and then I'm going to lift it into its location. Second, it says open the additional carton flaps to gain access to the subwoofer. And then it says here, remove your subwoofer from the carton by pushing it from the amplifier side where these instructions are. So this is the amplifier side, obviously. Remove the inner packaging from the subwoofer. Gently rock the subwoofer from side to side while removing each half of the lower packaging. So since this is the back and I have to push the subwoofer out that way, I kind of have it in a bad location. So I'm just going to spin it that way so I can push the subwoofer out in that direction, and that should make things a lot easier. Okay, so now that we have that, let's open up this back flap here, open up this flap. And there's nothing else in the packaging here. But this is the amplifier side. Like they said, they want to push it that way. So I just need to open up this other side so that I can push the subwoofer out from that end. So now that we have that open, like they said, you just push the subwoofer out from that other side. Now these things are very heavy, so I suggest that you use two people if you're going to be moving it. Okay, so in the top, you can see you have a pretty standard power cable. And then you do have a little bit of paperwork from SVS in the top as well. Just your warranty paperwork, most likely. Now we can begin to take some of the packaging off, just to simplify things. Here you have your grill, and unfortunately, it's still not a magnetic grill. I was hoping that this new generation of subwoofer would be magnetic, but you have your regular peg and grommet with your SVS logo on the bottom there. Here's your pegs. It's a plastic frame. Nice enough grill though. I just wish it was magnetic. So as you can see, the packaging is very thick. The subwoofer is very protected by this thick foam. So I don't imagine there's going to be many cases of a damaged subwoofer in packaging. But we need to get the final pieces out of the bottom here. Okay, so now that we got the box out of the way, let's just wiggle this subwoofer in front of the camera here, take the plastic off. And then of course it's also protected by this nice soft material because it does have a gloss finish. Take this sock off, and there you have your PB17 SVS driver. And then of course you have your port bungs already in there. And it feels like they're using a different foam now. These are the older SVS ones, which are kind of like a memory foam almost a little bit. Thicker, heavier foam. Looks like they are using a different foam now. But what an absolute beast of a subwoofer. This is a massive driver. And it's very typical of SVS with the woven glass fiber. I love their gloss finish. Very nice gloss finish. But there you have it. That's how you get this thing out of the box. So let's get some footage of it and let's talk about some of the specs of this absolutely beastly subwoofer. Now that we got the PB17 out of the box, the first thing I noticed is of course that nice gloss finish that SVS is known for, but it looks very nice. It's high quality. It has a nice mirror finish on it. I do like gloss black. It's not great for fingerprints for those of you that care about fingerprints, but they do have a black ash finish if you do have a problem with fingerprints or if you don't like fingerprints, but I do really like a nice gloss black finish, and these subwoofers have a perfect finish on them. Now, I did quickly hook up the subwoofer, and we are going to talk about the output in just a second here, but let's cover some of the specs of the subwoofer because I'm sure you guys are curious what SVS packed into this beast of a subwoofer, so let's talk about it. So first things first, the price of this subwoofer is $3,000 US or 5,250 Canadian dollars depending on where you're at. So they did increase the price a little bit from the PB17s, but with this new subwoofer you are getting a 17-inch high excursion driver, and it does have 3 massive 4-inch ports at the bottom to help reduce chuffing. The amplifier on the rear panel does have an OLED screen on it, so you can control the subwoofer from that OLED screen using the buttons, but of course you do have that infamous SVS app as well that you can connect to this subwoofer through Bluetooth on your phone, and through that app you can control absolutely everything on the subwoofer, which is just incredibly handy, especially for a heavy subwoofer like this. When the amplifier is pushed up against your wall, you're not going to be able to get access to it easily, but it's very simple to use that app and control the subwoofer and all the settings within it. And speaking of that amplifier, they did increase things here as well from the PB16 bumping up to the PB17. You have 2,800 watts RMS and 6,000 plus watts peak of dynamic power. You do have high resolution 295 megahertz analog device audio DSP with double precision 56-bit filtering with over 5 times the processing power of the previous subwoofers. This is the most advanced subwoofer processor available for perfect audio reproduction. At least that's what SVS claims on their website. So you do have plenty of power to move that 17-inch driver, and SVS is known for making some very robust drivers. What you're dealing with here is a cast aluminum basket, of course. And what would an SVS driver be without the premium glass fiber laminated dust cap? I really do like the look of the SVS drivers. It's a nice clean look on the outside with just the SVS logo across it, but they really do make some robust drivers, so this is going to be no exception. And just like the PB16, you do have an 8-inch voice coil here, so that is a massive voice coil to keep this driver under control. But now let's talk about the size, because this isn't exactly a small subwoofer, but considering the output that you're going to get with something like this, it is relatively manageable, but it is quite heavy, so let's talk about it. So the dimensions with the grill are 25 inches high, 21.7 inches wide, and 29.3 inches deep. Without the grill, you're looking at 25 inches high, 21.7 inches wide, and 28.5 inches deep. The weight when the subwoofer is unboxed is 164.7 pounds or 74.7 kilograms, and the shipping weight is 186.1 pounds or 84.4 kilograms. So as you can see, the subwoofer is not small and it is not light. So if you are going to be moving it around, I would recommend that you have 2 people to do so. It is a beast of a subwoofer. The reason for that quite large and robust cabinet is because when you want a lot of output, you do need the space in that cabinet to be able to produce those high output numbers. Now, I haven't measured this subwoofer yet, but I can tell after plugging it in, it's of course going to be a high output subwoofer. I did run some sideways through the subwoofer, which we'll talk about in just a second here, but the subwoofer does go quite low and it does have a ton of output to shake my room pretty violently. So if you guys do want to know more specific specs about the subwoofer, you can of course go to the SVS website. I have dropped links down in the description below so that you guys can check the subwoofer out if you want some more detailed specifications. But really what you need to know here is you have a 17-inch high excursion driver with 2,800 watts RMS and 6,000 watts peak, and it is DSP'd as well. You have different options with this subwoofer, so you can have extended mode, which means you block one port with the port bungs that I showed you in the unboxing, and once you block that one port, you are going to get a little bit more extension out of the subwoofer at the expense of a little bit of output, or max output, max SPL. The standard mode is with all the ports open, so you are going to get kind of a balance between the sealed mode and the extended mode in that configuration. And then of course, last but not least, you do have sealed mode, so you plug all 3 of those ports with the included port bungs that I showed you in the unboxing, and then you use either the app or the amplifier on the back with the buttons to change the subwoofer into sealed mode. I do like the fact that this subwoofer is versatile in that regard, that you can change it from extended mode, standard mode to sealed mode. So maybe for home theater, you do want the extended mode, but when you're listening to music, you want sealed mode, and you do have that option with this subwoofer to do that. All right, so now that we covered the specs, we kind of have an overview of this subwoofer. Let's talk about output really quick. Now, of course, I am going to give a lot more detail in the review. This is just an overview and unboxing of this subwoofer. I just wanted to show you guys and get them out of the boxes. I was really excited to get them hooked up. So when it comes to the output, I hooked the subwoofer up. I didn't really do any calibration or anything like that. I just wanted to get the raw output or the raw sound of the subwoofer. And you do have a very clean sound here. You have a very quality-based sound, I guess is a way to put it. It's not sloppy. It's not in any way boomy or anything like that. You do have quality sound and you do have a ton of output. First of all, I did play some music just to hear what it sounded like to blend with my system, and very easily it blended with my system. It wasn't overbearing, even though I haven't done any calibration. I just kind of adjusted the level to my room and to my ears, and I did have a really good sound, or a very good blend with that subwoofer and my speakers right off the bat without calibration. But then of course I wanted to, you know, open things up a little bit and crank things up a little bit. So I played some 20 hertz sine wave, I played just some bass demos, and this subwoofer absolutely shakes my room violently, and it doesn't seem to be breaking much of a sweat either. There's definitely no mechanical noise. There was no distortion that I could, at least audible distortion that I could hear. You do hear a little bit of wind noise coming from the ports down below, but that was when I was running very low sine waves, like a 15 hertz or 20 hertz sine wave. I would say that it's not as bad as the PB17s. I do remember those to have a little bit more port noise than these subwoofers. You can hear it if you are playing bass that doesn't really have a whole lot of audible bass. You are going to hear those ports a little bit, and again, that's only when you're running bass that really doesn't have any audible bass. It's just kind of that infrasonic. But these subwoofers do go low. I played a 12 hertz sine wave, I believe, and this thing didn't break a sweat. It was the driver was going like crazy. I could hear my room shaking. So it does go quite low. Like I said, I haven't measured it yet, so I'm not sure exactly where it starts to roll off. But even at a 12 hertz sine wave, it was still pumping out some SPL for sure. 15 hertz sine wave, again, same thing. It was pumping out a lot of SPL, and 20 hertz even more so. My room was shaking. But we are going to talk more about that in the review and after I have a chance to measure the subwoofer. But as it stands right now, I would say that the sound quality is quite well done, and this thing is going to have a ton of output. For those of you that are looking for a nice looking, premium looking subwoofer that still has a lot of output, but it may kind of sneak under the radar when it comes to the wife acceptance factor. No, it isn't exactly small, but it does look very premium with that gloss black finish. You can always cover the driver up with that nice grill. It is a little bit of a larger subwoofer, like I said, so it may be harder for some of you to place it. But SVS does a good job of keeping the height down and the width down. Now they are quite deep, as you can see in the pictures, and as you can tell from the dimensions that I gave you. So it is a little bit of a deeper subwoofer, but as long as you have that room at the front of your room or the back of your room, I think one of the best ways to kind of hide the size of a subwoofer is depth, as long as you can accommodate that depth at the front of your room, like I said. But it does look fairly small when you're looking at it from the front, considering that it is a 17-inch driver with a fairly large cabinet. So it does kind of give you the illusion that it's not that big, as long as you can accommodate that depth. But again, make sure you guys stay tuned for the review. I can't wait to test both of these subwoofers out at the same time and measure them in my space and show you guys the measurements of how it performs. And if you do want to stay tuned for the review, please consider subscribing. Tick that bell icon if you do, and please take just one short second to hit that like button. I always do appreciate it, guys. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.